just quickly, because I was supposed to come here to show this, and then I will link back to what he's talking now. So I've been working first in academia. I did a PhD on Chinese social media in China, right? So how the content is spreading around the network when people talk. So it was, I will just show you quickly so you understand, because it's a bit confusing, I think. Yeah. So it was about memes, jokes, jokes online, and so I made graphs of how the content is spreading, So I took different contents, like news, jokes, marketing, commercial, like campaigns, stuff like that, and I see different models for the spreading. So part was like how it spread inside China, It's China, the internet, it's pretty special. So it spread like inside the country mostly. So I was looking at like where it goes, right? And where it comes from. And also how the words relates to each other. Like people are talking, they use words, so all those words are like creating meaning, semantic correlation and stuff like that. And then also like how the people were discussing, this is groups of people. I won't get into much details, but so the idea was this, right? So I made some stats from the words and how it worked, and then this is the writing PhD student. Painful. Really painful. Anyway, and so I did this research, and then after some, so the concept inside the thesis was like a topogram, because I wanted to see like this topology of the web, of the Chinese web, right? So my major was like geography, information science. I mean more like media studies, and some computer science, maybe, and some management inside, And from the software I wrote, because I wrote a complete software to take the Chinese social media, the data, analyze it, and create the maps, right? So I wrote a piece of software to do that. And after I did that, the software was like crap. Right? It doesn't work. It's like, no. So what I did is like I took all this code I wrote for myself, and I rewrite it into a proper software that actually works. Okay, just so I can share it with people, and I can continue this research on different topics. Because one thing maybe is a bit, because you're talking about social media as well. What the research about social media is a very disappointing feeling sometimes, because you're just online, right? And so especially in China, it's like sometimes you think you can see everything. You are like this monitoring data. Actually, the conclusion of my thesis was like, wow, this whole data analysis stuff is not very useful. Maybe, it was not super useful to. What I understood was patterns of diffusion that are already known for our common sense. Right? Like the news, for instance, when you see a news, breaking news, nobody talks about it, then it explodes on the network. Then it spread, but then it's nothing new. We know that the news is a news. So anyway, I tried to rewrite it, and I called it like the tagline was like social network analysis for humans, because when it was only data, and you never see humans. So I wanted to do something that actually we can use, we can input stuff. I can sort of bring it on a tablet and go in place. And input words, input data, and then annotate, sort of like this, right? So that was the basic idea. And so I start working on it. It doesn't work very well, but I can show you maybe a bit of the basic figure of this. I think there's another application already running. Yes, right. So the way it works is basically you import data that is in form of network, okay, network data, and then you can search inside, you can annotate, you can edit several people together, like in Google Drive. I will show you if it works, which should work. Just to build the application first. Okay. So for instance, let's say, well, this is a big network, but this is a work I've been doing it for an institution. Basically, the people they wanted to know is all the research center in where I live in France, in Lyon. Around Lyon, all the research center, how they work with other people, like museum, whatever, like many partners, industries, etc. So I was commissioned to map this, to map the relationship, based on their project. So I have the data for their partnership, right? And after that, I had also to do interviews to complete the graph, and so I can search, for instance, the university in Lyon, like like some university, blah blah blah. Yeah, this is in Lyon, for instance, right? And I will see all the partners. So it hurts the eyes. It's not very useful visualization right now. But the basic thing was like to constitute this network first.
Can you repeat, what were those data?
So this data, I created the data. I mean, not. Basically, it was a funding, something that fund research, an institution that pays for research. They have a bunch of projects, research projects, and they don't know who works with who and how it works. They just pay, but they don't know, right? It's funding. And so they wanted to understand who is partners with who. So I just took this bunch of data, and I recreate the relationships based on, okay, the dots are the institution or museums, or here you have a legend. I can show you maybe. So this is a laboratory, a lab, research lab. This is a museum. This is a PhD school. Yes. So I have different types of people, institutions, and then I map the linked. First, the link were based on the proposals and like on the paper, the data they have. So they give me all their data, and I have to extract it. It's very painful work. Lots of PDF, which you can just throw away. Then you have to rewrite. So after I had to go in the office, with the secretary. They have the data. They know, right? The people that they take care of the office. So they have all the data. So I had to go with there. They explain me the projects. I have to extract it, and after that I have to do interview as well, because you cannot. Well, I can produce a map like that, but also it's a very dangerous tool, because if you give that to management, here I remove all the names of the people. I decided to transform the people into links, right? Because before you can see the name of the people, like X, like this researcher, he has like 10 projects, so it's like super awesome. If you look at the graph, it's like very big, right? But it's very dangerous, right? Because maybe it's very big, he has a lot of funding, but in reality, the guy is too busy, he doesn't do anything. But in the graph is very important. So if you use that to take a decision, it's very problematic. So I decided to transform that into a connection. Is that clear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. And and then the idea was like to constitute that graph. And from that graph, so this is just I had to have this tool to understand how my graph looked like. And at the same time, it was an opportunity to continue developing this tool. So I could like search for it, then some basic statistics, the very basics. What sort of partners, he has, and I don't know, who is the neighborhood is the same concept, who is around him, and first is a different distribution, right? I can browse into the graph, see whatever, I can go to this and browse like that, And for instance, when I was doing the interviews, I can just like click like that and say, okay, so how was your partnership with this guy or this institution? Based on the data I had, because they should have a partnership based on the. So I could query like the people like that, and so that was, and I can annotate inside the graph. No, it's not working, but I have just like a very basic comments section. So in the notes, I can encapsulate some data. But this is a complicated problem, but it was very interesting. And the other thing I wanted to do with this is you should be able to create as well. Because sometimes the guy is like, there's a partner that is not in the data, but is important, so you have to create it. So what I did is like, I can show you maybe, wait, I can show you, sorry. What I wanted to do also is to have a single URL. for a single node, you know. So I can share, this node, for instance, you know, is this URL, so I can share to someone, send an email, and say, hey, can you check that? And can you check if the people that are on the graph on your project are the right partners, and if it lacks partners? So I can send to people, you know, to do this research. And also, what else? I forgot. I can export images, right, easily. So PNG, you know, if I need to export. And also, there were some basic statistics, which I mostly removed now, because there are lots of unstable parts that I use myself. But as I want other people to use it, I have to keep removing things, because it becomes unstable. You click and then people just trash the thing. So, and so there's different layouts. You can also see the data actually. You can load data like this, right? With a basic search. What are the different functionalities? And so there's an edit mode, so you can create links like this. Oh, it doesn't show now, but you know, you can delete a node, you can store it, right? You can also, this is the comment section. Maybe it works. Yeah, it works. It actually works. you can like have comments here. So like, hello. Yeah, it's the business avatars. It's a random avatar from a website. And another thing I'm not sure it was working very well, but it was interesting for me to have is wait, I will try to show you something better, like
so all this is topogram, no?
Yeah. So this is topogram. This software. So I wrote it mostly myself. We are working with geographer, and because the feature not there is the time frame, because the projects were like for 10 years or something. So we should. I needed to show like only 2001 to 2006. So I had a timeline, which is not timeline, but I'm going to integrate it. This is ready, but it has to be more. And another thing is the map protection. So you can just click on map. Here you have, if you go there, you have different layouts, you know, just to visualize the data. You know, there are, maybe you can try, maybe it will work, I don't know. Yeah, so this is useless, right? But on some sort of network, it's useful. And so for instance, concentric network, you know, it will cluster the data, I mean, like the closers and stuff like that. I don't know if you, anyway. And here, usually there are a map layer, right? Just click map, and if you have geographical coordinate information, just get in the map, right? Which is useful as well. So that's pretty much the thing, right? And yes, and the other thing I wanted to show you is basically this. I will hopefully work again. Yes, so it's yes, it works, right? Sort of work. You see it moved, no? You see? Okay. So it's real-time collaboration on the map. So we can like create a map. We can edit the map together with like 10 computer, 20 computer, even remotely as it's online. It works like Google Docs. And the other thing is, yeah, I think it's the same with the comment system. It's live, so you can comment like a chat. You can chat in the notes basically. And that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yes, and the node creation, that was the thing. Here, my idea of node creation. So it's very complicated to create a graph from scratch, right? If I want, for instance, if I want to map the interaction in the room, I will say he's talking to him and he's looking at me, and you know. So it's sort of complicated to create with the mouse. So what I was thinking is like it's better to write it, right? So I will write. So what I'm trying to maybe I will do a new stuff so it's easier for you to understand. Let's say we call it wiki 2 maybe. So this is the network creation. It's either you have a data, you have already data, right? So you can import a CSV file. is either node file, H files. It's a network structure data. So you already don't have data, you just keep it. You have an empty graph, right? And then you can create something. So I will create you, as I remember your name. Roberto, right? And you can create it. It should appear somewhere. What? No, it didn't work. Okay, it doesn't work. Yes. My demo is fucked. Okay. Sorry. But it should work. It usually works. I create myself. No, no chance. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, that's oh, it is very small somewhere. Oh, it's no. Okay. Anyway. So, but the idea is like I could create like for instance, this guy is talking to this guy, and so you have this guy is talking to this guy, and like that you can create very quickly a complex network of. So that's the next. I think I will do it maybe when I have time. I mean this once. Just like so, you can just like create network very quickly of representation of things, and when you have many people together, I think it can get interesting. So people can just like describe a situation, or let's say, yeah, we want to make a map of the association in Bilbao or institution. So you just sit the people in a room and you just edit it like crazy, and then you can import data. So that's the goal. I'm not there yet. It's not ready, but. And so back to what we are going to do now. But with so what I've found very interesting is actually when the wiki structure actually is a very good backend to write into the nodes, right? Because we have a network structure with many wiki, many independents. So it's very, for me, it will be very interesting to sort of have a map of it. Because as you mentioned, it's easy to get lost in this wiki.
Do you want to show the editing of the graph in the wiki?
Yes.
Because that's a good link.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I have it close now.
So for me, the missing part for the wiki writing, which I've been wanting for about a few years now, is the map of all the relationships, because it's good for writing, and you can pull up a few pages, and but then you get lost. So you want to see if there are 500 sites where you are, and you want to see this map, and it's all very well to search this neighborhood. You want to see that as a cluster and who they're talking to. So I want these maps. And so it's fantastic that we just started to work together. And then the other way, when you have the maps and you just have this kind of big data, you miss the sort of detail of the page and your ability to write really simply and have a big video in there and just deal with writing some notes about that person. So you struggle with the complexity of all these nodes in this graph, and it's quite abstract. So when you put them together, every node is a page in the wiki. You can write your interview in there, you can upload your video to that interview, you can put links to other websites on the wiki page, and then you've got a node, and it links to other things. And then all the wiki pages together create the graph for you. So if you just take 10 pages, it's got a graph associated with it automatically. It's just that cluster you're looking at. If you want to look at all the pages, you've got your big data graph. But if you want to zoom into particular things, you search for a few pages and you graph them. So under the sites, I think you can, it's on your page, isn't it? If you just look.
It should be, but I cannot find it. So
on the home page, okay, just go to david.commons.org. I end up using domains like folders, on your hard disk you've got that. So I've got now like probably 200 domains. So if I'm writing on something, I just dump all that stuff. So for this project here, we just put up a new domain, and then you just grab a few pages of interesting stuff from previous stuff. So now we've got a prototypic site in like 4 hours with maybe 60, 70 pages of stuff to do with graphing and plants and biology and genetics. And now we'll write it together with other stuff, and there's our new site. So, and on the first thing there, doesn't it say what data? Third item. No, it's what were we looking for?
I'm looking for the cytoscape stuff.
What was it called? The ward. Sorry, I'm sure it was on your site, wasn't it? What was it called?
You can search.
I can search. Maybe I remove it.
Okay, if you go to my site, you search for. I can't think what to search for now because my head's a mess. Search for.
That's the thing, right?
Create a graph, maybe.
Okay. Or maybe I can show.
Just go at the bottom, type graph on the daily. Well, then if that's.
Graph visualization?
No.
Network visualization?
No. And it's a green flag. It's funny how you remember things like that. You're searching for something, and I just remember it's green. I mean, I'm quite visual. Why don't you talk and I search for it?
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, the basic idea is like, so we have those two projects. We are here for this full time. We are very glad to be part of this one. It's very cool. And so we want to work. Yeah, it's a French keyboard. Be careful. It's super careful. It bites. Yeah. So the idea is like try to merge the books and have the backend, because okay, the thing is like it shows me the wiki. I think it's very interesting. I'm writing quite a lot, and I like to really use it, but it gets a mess. I'm like, whoa, it's complicated, you know, to understand the structure. And so what we were discussing is two things, I think. One, three things. First is we will use the wiki to document the events we have in part in Big Bar right now. So maybe even the wiki talking, this event we can write on this wiki and have different stuff. And then from that, create a map with all the links inside and all the documentation we make. And so with Topogram, mostly likely, or something similar. And the other thing is, well, you need a way to publish that, because I think the wiki is very good for writing and it's very bad for reading. It's not convenient to read all these pieces just like in your head. So what I just started this afternoon. We had the discussion and starting a very basic idea, which is if I can show you again, it needs something. Okay. Yes. No. Yes. No. Okay. Sorry. I need to run that wiki. Yeah. No, it's this one. Okay. So the idea is I can take a page from this wiki and show it in a nice way. For instance, okay. I don't know. I took a random page. This page, right here.
Mm-hmm.
And just to show it in a better way. So I made something you can input a URL, like a wiki URL, and it just shows like that first, you know? And then, because inside you have video, you have different stuff, but it's all, as it shows you, it's all in JSON, right? The data is very clean. So we can fetch the data and just show it properly. And now it's just one page, but the idea is like if we can, so you know, you can curate many contents like this, and it gets added here. If you look in the URL, it's like this is the first page and this is the second page, and maybe if I click here, there's a third page, etc., right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is you curate content like this, and then you just import it in a viewer basically, and then you can display it nicely in the page. You can read on mobile. You can read basically more like convenient. So I think if there's a map. There's a proper map plus proper viewing, then it's a good tool. It is very interesting to write, read, publish. Because even for Topogram, I think you have this network visualization, and it scares people. You know the big graph? When I show that to the funding people for the research, they are like, I usually don't, here's a data lab, so I show it. I usually don't show the graph, because people think I'm crazy, or like, what? Graphs? It's like scary, you know.
So here's how you would edit the graph in the wiki. So this is the other way of putting it together. So here's the wiki here, and sketch out an idea of what we want the graph to do. And this is early work, let's say about 2 weeks old. If you want to join in, that help, you're more than welcome. So this is Ward's work. I hack with him once a week. and I wanted to do this graphing. He's got a thing about permaculture and gardens, so, and pattern languages. So he's got this architectural book of different forms of patterns of planting and gardens. Okay? And so down here he's made and he wanted to make a graph, so like a half-hidden garden. And a half-hidden garden here, it's in yellow, is linked to courtyards, garden and entrance. And you enter that by just this little text markup here. Like, here goes to courtyard. That's what this line says. Here goes to courtyard. And if I want to change that, I can go here, goes to Bilbao. Did I do that right? Yeah. And it adds that here. Okay. It's funny actually because I've just edited this side. So you would think because this is Word.Asia, but when it's yellow like that, that just means it's in my browser. If I want, I can take it and fork it later. It just means to change the local. But now I can click on garden, and garden is linked to that, and there's three other things. That's the text there, and it's got a little thing, and I can then, what's this tree? The garden has a tree in it, and it's linked. Now let's have a look at the view of all these maps that I visited put together. Okay, so I click on this, and it's an early stage sort of idea of the view here. And there is the graph in kind of Cytoscape, the same crude thing in the bottom. And here is using another render to make an SVG of the graph of these relationships. And just to show you that that's dynamic, if we keep going here and we make it bigger and we say, let's have a look at all these graphs together and have a look at it, you get a completely different graph. And you get a bigger graph here. So simply by creating a page and saying this links to this and this links to this, and you can do things like on this page here, and like, or if I go back to where it said Bilbao, I added that already. Here, on the first one wasn't Bilbao. Green means it's not been added. If I click on it, well, I've now got the option to create this page. Right? It didn't exist before. So you just type in a few simple links of what you're doing and you start to draw your map without knowing about graph theory and learning software about the editing and all of that complexity. Just say, this links to this idea of this word, start writing about it, and deal with that one little element of the graph and worry about the big picture later. Then come back, look at the graph and say, oh, that's really interesting, this relates to this and this clusters to this, and start to manipulate and then go back and you've got these two parallel worlds of data.
Okay.
So that's what we're working on this week.
Yeah. So first question.
Will you later this year, because I have some questions that I can ask
Yes,
you
you can.
Yes.
Yes.
Your topogram,
Yeah.
does it support weighted and unweighted networks or?
Yes. Yeah, you have weights and you have like, it's pretty straightforward. It's network, but yes, you can have weighted edges and weighted nodes if you want.
It's
and
based on Cytoscape,
yeah.
and that has a huge. The best. We came together on that, so it's got weighting and all sorts of graph analysis in the back end, and you can use it. And then this is the sort of custom things you can create on top of it.
Yeah,
And how it works with large, 1 million nodes and 5 million edges.
So we work on that problem with the developer of Cytoscape and other people. So the thing is, of course, like what you want to do, is first is like 1 million nodes is pretty useless. It's very bad information, right? You cannot do anything with it, except reduce it. But the thing is, what you want to do is to be able to move inside, right? So what you have to do is to load only parts of the graph. So that means, let's say this is 1 million thing. So you just want to focus on this, right? The problem is like when you have graphs, and they can be very interrelated. If your graph is dense, maybe if you take just you take this node for instance, here I can draw. It's a bit of tissue. You have 1 node and 2 nodes and 3 nodes, I don't know, whatever. And you just want to have n plus 2, right? So what happens is if your graph is dense, you just focus on this, but then everything is connected like that, right? So you got the whole graph. And so you get, even if the total is 1 million, even in this n plus 2,